Um, Hi there, I'm Toby from Noise Productions. Today I'm going to show you Virtual Video Director 6, which is the new version of Virtual Video Director that's going to be coming out very soon. Version 6 is a complete rewrite from the ground up, and it's got some pretty exciting, cool new features, which I'm going to show you today. So, let's dive into it. You'll see the user interface is completely different from the old version. But we've kept a lot of the same fundamentals, but also added a lot of cool new features. So I'll walk you through how you would set it up for a production, and we'll see some of those cool new features as we go. So the very first thing we're going to do is go up to Configure and into Audio Interfaces. VVD6 supports up to 128 channels. The cool thing is they don't need to come from a single audio interface. You can mix and match and bring in audio from lots of different sources and then map them to individual channels. So we'll add in the local microphone because that's easy. You just add a device, choose it from the list, click OK, and now we can see this microphone has 4 inputs available. We can just drag across the one we want to use. I'll grab 2 copies of the same thing, and now those are mapped to VVD channel 1 and 2. And I can just add another interface. I've got an NDI test pattern. We'll add that in. It won't be much use, but it'll get us going. Cool, so we can see it's got up to 8 channels of audio. You can just bring that in, one of those in there. Move that, hide that if we want. And then we've got OMT audio as a newly supported audio interface. Probably the coolest thing though is this new vMix Direct Connect. That allows you to connect to a vMix machine, read all the inputs that have audio on them, and then vMix will send the audio levels of each input to VVD. So not the actual audio itself, just the audio levels, which is still saves you splitting, which is really handy. So I just type in the IP address. I've got vMix running on this machine here, and it's looping a couple of videos. So in that list, back to VVD. If I hit refresh, it's found 2 audio sources from vMix. Hit OK, and now we can see here's the 2 vMix channels with audio on them. And you can just drag them across. Now we've got 5 channels mapped in VVD. Click Save, and now here are our 5 channels. Now when you change an audio mapping like this, it's going to bring up this new wizard, which helps you set the gain and gate values for each channel. Now you might have noticed we've added a gain, which lots of people have asked for, and we have also added an individual gate on each channel, so you can really dial in the settings that you want. The wizard will step you through. It will measure the audio on every channel, and it will set the right values. And it's a good starting point anyway. So if you've got all identical microphones, you can choose that, or if you've got a mixture of different microphones, and if you have the same team of people using your system every day, then that will help get the right settings. Or if you've got different guests, could be anyone coming and going. One day you might have loud voices, one day you might have quiet voices. Then you can choose that as part of the wizard setup. And it's going to take you through the process of measuring the levels on each channel and setting the appropriate gain and gate levels. You can choose which channels you might want to mute, unmute, and not include in the setup process. So I'm just going to choose the ones that have. I'm just going to choose one for now. Just take you through this. So click next. The next thing we do is measure silence. So this will measure our noise floor. So I'll start the measurement and stop talking, and that will help it set the background noise level. Cool. If I made a noise, I could remeasure that. And then next, we're going to speak into this one, and that will set the gain and gate. So this is a test of the audio on mic 1. There we go, done. Hit next, and now it's got the gate threshold, the gain, especially the noise floor, and what our peak levels are. And if I'm happy with that, I can hit apply, and we should see those settings over here have now been applied to this microphone. You can see next to gain and gate, we've actually got a mode switch. So VVD6 has two methods of detecting audio. Method 1 is level-based, so it essentially just looks for whatever channel is the loudest, and that will affect this orange probability. So the blue indicator is the raw audio signal, and the orange indicator is the probability that there's someone talking on that channel. So when the probability gets all the way to the max, then the channel will be switched. We also have this extra mode, AI VAD mode, which is looking for an actual voice. So it's more than just noise. It's looking for a combination of the level and is there someone speaking. So you can see when I start speaking, the little red light comes on, and that indicates that it's detected someone is actually talking. So that won't come on when there's paper rustling or coughing or other noises that aren't people speaking. And, so that gives you a couple of options. Now, VAD mode won't work on inputs that don't have audio. So, for example, Wheatstone is just sending us levels, not audio, and these VMAX inputs as well are they're not actually sending us the audio. So if I put that in VAD mode, even though there's talking, it's not going to detect any voice on that because it's sending us the level instead of the actual audio. So yeah, that's the audio inputs. You've got up here in the top right hand corner, you've got some options for how to set some of the settings that we had in VVD5. So VVD6 has the same minimum duration, which affects how long it stays on an individual channel. So you can increase that or decrease it, and once it fires, it will stick to that channel. The attack and decay settings determine how quickly this probability meter moves up and down. So if I have it set to a very slow attack, it'll take a long time. You see that orange is climbing slowly. That's going to filter out noises and transients. Or if I set it to a very fast, you can see instantly, as soon as I talk, the orange leaps all the way up to the top. And then we've got a decay as well. So if I set that to slow, it takes a long time for it to drop. Or if I set it to fast, it almost drops instantly. So it allows you to choose between fast and slow cutting and really dial in the settings. So some people like to have really fast attack and then slow decay so that you the stickiness of effectively a channel stays. Right, let's move on. Let's talk about how you actually do some triggers. So you'll see each channel has 8 of these slots, and you can assign, clicking on the cog, different triggers to each slot. So I've got a VMAX one set up here. You can also do a loop back. So on here, we could choose a VVD channel and then actually trigger a VVD channel as part of a channel. So you can cause loops, which would be bad, but you can also do cascading trigger events, which can be pretty handy. And let's actually have a look at some of the new triggers we've got. Go into our trigger settings, and click on Add Trigger, and you can see there's a bunch of new triggers we've got available here. We've really put a lot of energy into making new triggers available and doing some cool things. We'll go through them, have a look. ArtNet. You can now control lighting, so you can set scenes and ArtNet compatible devices, and then pass values through. So, for example, if you wanted to bring up a spotlight when someone talks, you just set the channel. It might be channel 6. You just set the values you want to be available. But add that as an option. Now, I might need to close that and reopen it. So if I now go to the Cold Channel 1, I can choose ArtNet, and then I can choose the value that I want to pass to ArtNet, that channel that we set up for this particular VBD channel. If I wanted to control a different ArtNet channel, I just add another trigger, call that channel 7 maybe, and then I'd set the start channel to 7, and then maybe I want to add a completely different value. We'll call it like 85%, and the value of that will be 85. So that's now an option in our parameter list. And then on channel 2, I could fire ArtNet, and I can choose the new value that I've added, 95. So that gives you a lot of flexibility in terms of controlling. You'll see as we go through, all the channels now have these new parameter capabilities that you can pass through. So let's go on to the next one. I'll remove those so we keep a relatively tidy list. We've got Blackmagic ATEM support. We've actually gone direct connect to ATEMs now, so you don't need to install the ATEM software. You just put in the IP address and it will directly control ATEM. Central control, same support as what we had before. I won't go through that. Custom HTTP, that's a new one. So if you choose that, you can give it your own name. You can choose HTTP, HTTPS, type in an IP address or a DNS name, and then you can actually modify what's passed in the URL. So you could do it as, you could get rid of the query string there and have whatever you want, put a query string in, and then add your own test, and then the value might be O, and then that's now an option for the triggers. If I add that in, and then come into channel 1, then I can set custom HTTP, and then I can determine what will be passed through when this channel fires. So that's very powerful. Compared to VBD5, you can do a lot of very cool things with that. Let's remove that. I'll add the next one, MIDI send. Very similar to what we had in VBD5, a little bit more powerful. You can now set the notes, set the MIDI channel velocity, and have a little bit more granular control there. So if I add that, and I can now add MIDI send, and you can actually just pick the note that you want to send for each channel. So you only need that one instance of MIDI send, and then you can send different notes when each channel fires. Let's remove that. Miro Live, same as before, hasn't changed. NDI PTZ, you just pick your NDI camera from the list, and then you can recall presets. This is an NDI camera, but it will allow me to show you what it looks like. So then you just pick the preset you want to recall for each trigger. for each channel, sorry. Go. That. What else have we got here? OBS. So heaps of people have been asking for OBS. OBS have now implemented a pretty good WebSocket-based API. So we have implemented that in VBD. I've got OBS running on this machine. So basically, you go into Tools in OBS, turn on the WebSocket API, and give it a password. And then if I test the connection, I can see I'm connected to OBS, and then I can fetch the scenes. So we've got 2 scenes. And now within the channel, I can choose OBS. And then I can pick from the 2 scenes that are available in this instance of OBS. So hopefully that'll open the door for a lot of people who have not been using VMAX but prefer to use OBS. Right, let's carry on. OSC, we've added it. A few people asked for it. You can send your own messages, all the different OSC formats. Whatever you need to do there, you can add your own parameters and control OSC-based devices. Panasonic PTZ hasn't changed, pretty much the same capabilities you had before. Same with Pathfinder Core Pro. PowerShell, this is a big one, a new capability. You can integrate your own PowerShell scripts directly into VBD. Not only that, you can pass in, so say we've got some examples here. So you can launch an application, play a sound, or do an HTTP request, run an external command. We've added some examples there to get you going, send an email, whatever you need to do. You can also pass in VBD values. So if you have a look here, these are the values that are available that'll be passed to your PowerShell scripts. So for example, in the script, you go, if channel number equals 1, then do this. And it'll allow you to do some pretty cool things that are not currently possible. So have fun with that one. We've also added support for PTZ optics cameras. I don't have one attached, but you can just pick the number of presets you want to have, and they'll appear as parameters in Trigger. We've added JavaScript, so if you're not so much for a PowerShell person, but you want to run some JavaScript, you can also pass in these VBD values. So you can pass in the current channel number in VBD, and your JavaScript can respond to that. So we've got some examples here again. You want to post some JSON to somewhere, then go for gold. So that's probably a little bit more powerful than using just the HTTP, custom HTTP. You can actually do some pretty cool integrations with JavaScript. Super Trigger. This is a very cool new feature that we've been put a lot of energy into. Obviously, we build all of these new trigger types. People ask us for triggers all the time, and some of them are quite complex to implement and might only be used by one person. So what we decided to do is create something called a super trigger, which allows you to essentially build anything. And you don't even need to know how to code. You just type in what you want VBD to do in plain English. It might be connect to a device on port 30 and send it an ASCII message, anything you want. It might be launch an application. It might be anything. Literally anything that your computer can do, you can type in here. So what do we want to do? Let's beep. And wait 2 seconds, then I don't know, open Notepad. No, let's then get the latest weather forecast for New York, and write it to a text file at SaveJournalTeam method.txt. Right. Then wait 1 second, then open the file. Notepad. What else are we going to do? Then beep. Yeah. So literally anything. Then call an API on this web address. Fine. Desktop PHP. Whatever you want. Like literally anything you want. When you click Generate Super Trigger, that will send your request off to our server, which will use AI to generate the code to actually perform that function. And it's going to compile the code into a DLL module and then download the module to your local instance of Virtual Video Director and make that available as a new trigger in VBD. You can also pass in parameters. Then right, let's have let's receive a parameter. So make these parameters available in the trigger. Dave, Bob, and Tim. If the selected if Bob is fired, then beep 3 times. Whatever you want. And then click Generate Super Trigger. Oh, it's waiting. I'm just going to grab a drink. So our server's now figuring out how to implement all that, writing some code and compiling the code, testing it, make sure that it compiles correctly, and then it's going to download that as a DLL. In the future, if people come up with some cool stuff, we will potentially create a kind of like a store where you can share these triggers and make them available to other people, which would be pretty cool. Cool. So it's done that. You just check that what it's interpreted is correct. It's going to download the weather forecast for New York, put it in the file, open the file, beep sometimes, call an API, and then it'll hopefully make these parameters available. So if I click on save, it's now added the super trigger there. If I go over here, I should be able to choose my super trigger. And it's got the 3 parameters that I asked it for. I click on Bob. Hopefully that'll beep 3 times when we fire it. And then let's test it. If I go. There we go. It's I was unable to get the weather forecast. I probably was asking a bit much there, but that's fine. Yeah, can't remember what else we asked it to do, but that's pretty cool. So really looking forward to see how people use that. It keeps firing. Let's disable it now. It's going to keep going. That essentially means VVD can be integrated with an unlimited number of different applications, hardware, and you don't need to come to us to ask us to implement it. You can do it yourself, and you don't need to know how to code. So that's pretty exciting. Let's carry on. We'll have a look. Your super trigger. TCP send, so you can send it to an IP address on port. You can keep a persistent connection open if you want. Send it in hexadecimal or ASCII. Choose whether to carriage return or line feed, however you want to terminate. And then you can add your own custom payloads. So test and then payload. So add that. So yes, payload. So now I should be able to choose TCP send, and it'll send depending on which one of those I choose. It'll set the payload. We've also got UDP send as well here, which is exactly the same. You can set the same parameters as TCP and just send it as UDP instead. We've got your usual TriCaster support, exactly the same as what it was in BBD5. And we've added Visca, so you can now control Visca cameras directly, which people find useful, hopefully. UDP or TCP, and you can set the number of presets you want to have available. And finally, vMix. We've revamped the vMix trigger a little bit. It's a little bit more powerful. You can now, instead of just setting a channel, you can get the actual vMix channel names. This is great if you move them around in vMix. It'll still call the correct one, which a lot of people have asked for. We've also added a lot more different vMix API calls. So you can go to shortcuts, and then you can basically choose any vMix function that you want to call from within VVD, which is pretty cool. Just put that back to the bog standard cut. So yeah, I click OK and hit that in. Now I can choose which input I actually want to call with the correct name in there. So yeah, that's should make it a lot easier to integrate with vMix. Rightio, remove those, and let's move on to some of the controls we've got on the main screen in Virtual Video Director. We've kept the Realism Simulator from version 5. If you turn it on, you can set a window. So the window is looks for any channels that have had people talking on them. And you'll see they have this blue color added. So this channel here has got blue, so that means someone's spoken on that channel in the last 14 seconds. And then the frequency sets how frequently we're just going to randomly cut to one of these blue channels. And it will pick a random time between 0 seconds and 12 minutes, basically, or whatever you set that to. So that's pretty much the same as what we had in VPD5. Silence is a little bit different. We've changed it to be based on your gates now. So essentially what you do is if the one of these, you set a gate level, and if all of the channels go under that gate threshold for more than 1 second, 2 seconds, 1 second, 2 seconds, can't remember, it's an amount of time that felt about right, then silence will be triggered. So if I go quiet, silence is now triggered. And you've got your own minimum duration on silence, so you can set that to whatever you want. If you want to stick to silence when silence fires, you can see it'll count down. It won't allow anything else to fire until that minimum duration has expired. Overview is the same. Except it works on channels being over the gate threshold. So if all the channels that are unmuted are over the gate threshold, it will fire overview. There's a bit of a sensitivity setting there, which will help you dial it in, and then it has, again, its own minimum duration. It requires 2 channels to be over the threshold in order to fire overview, so you can see it's fired now that I've unmuted that one, and it's set its own minimum duration. We've got a fixed timer, so you can just turn this on and VVD will fire every 18 minutes and 29 seconds, and you've got your own dedicated minimum duration for that as well. So those are basically the same as what VVD5 had. It's weird. But then we've added some extra things. So we've added these, we're calling them broadcast triggers. So they are triggers that can be fired when certain broadcast events occur. So, for example, you might want something to happen when you go on air, or you might want something to happen when the music comes on or off, or you might want something to happen when an ad break happens, or when you go off air. And these can be triggered in a number of different ways. You see there's a little blue arrows next to each one. These are the inbound triggers. So if I click on one of those, you can see we've now got API endpoints to fire these. So that means you can interface VVD to fire these individual triggers based on an inbound message, TCP, UDP, or HTTP, or you could build a super trigger to do it. So it might be when something happens on the machine, it might fire that inbound trigger. And each one has its own values that you send through on the API. So you just click on the arrow and you can copy it and tell, and then easily fire that trigger. And then on air, so for example, on the on air, you just set the triggers, what you want to happen when you go on air, and then what you want to happen when you go off air. So it's all pretty cool. We also have outbound connections that can control these broadcast triggers. So if you click on the little orange arrow there, we're going to add a whole heap of devices and hardware that we support for outbound connections. There's a handful there to start with. So if you've got ideas on what could be interfaced to here, please send them through. Control by Web is a common hardware interface that people use. You can connect up to, so type in the IP address of the device, and then click on OK, and then this one has 4 buttons or 4 GPIO inputs, and then you can just drag across to each one. So, for example, when it goes high, GPIO pin 1 goes high, it will fire the on-air trigger, and then when it goes low, it'll fire the off-air trigger. So that's a great way of integrating. You can connect Allen Heath mixers, AHE mixers, and then when presets are recalled, you could make that also fire. So you can connect up as many as you want and have it and or. And that gives you a lot of power around what VVD does and how it controls. And of course, you could connect up a super trigger to the output of these on air. So you could add a super trigger to on air, and then BBD can do just about anything you need when you go on air. Pretty cool. We're really excited to see how people use those, because it's something people have asked for a long time. We've never really figured out how to do that well, and I think this implementation is going to work really well. Let's have a look at what else we've got. We've added 2 different colour schemes to VBD6 because people have different conventions. So in the live events industry, green is generally on and red is off, but in broadcast, red is on. So you can put it into broadcast mode, and then all the indicators will be correct for how you use. We've added language support, so you can change it to whatever language you like in the user interface. And help will all be in the correct language. Licensing hasn't changed much. You can set it to start on boot, same as before. We've had quite a lot around how you recall presets in VBD. We've got a lot of studios where they want different presets for all the different shows that use the user studio. So we've added a new settings manager, and you can create a show, create a new show, and that gets saved to a file, and then you can create slots, scene slots within that show. So let's create a couple of those, 2 scenes, and then if I want to take a snapshot of all the current VBD settings, I can save them to scene 1. Then I might want to change some settings, save that as scene 2. These scenes can now be recalled through the API. So you don't need to load files directly. You can just make sure a show is loaded, and then recall different scenes within the show. Or you can directly load a scene file. It's worth noting that the scene files are not compatible with VBD5. This is a completely different architecture and approach, so you won't be able to reuse your scene files, obviously, but you can pretty easily create new ones. You can also directly load scenes from the menu here, so if you do have a scene file. We have added an import VBD5 wizard. This will, you'll be prompted for this when you install VBD6. If you've had VBD5 installed, it will ask you whether you want to import the settings. It's not going to bring everything across. Obviously, VBD5 and 6 are just so completely different. It will bring in your audio interface that you've chosen and set some things up the same, but it's really just a starting point. You'll probably want to go through and change everything anyway, because it's all quite different. Reset to defaults. If you get in trouble, you can just reset everything and then take it back to the factory default settings. We've added comprehensive online help, and this will be in the language that you have chosen. So we've got now help in every language. And view logs has been something people have been asking for a long time. So you can now view VBD logs. You can search for errors or whatever you want, and it'll filter it down and then copy those out, do whatever you need to do with them, save to a file. We've also set a setting so the log files are deleted after so many days, so we don't bog up your hard drive with lots of log files. So hopefully that people find that useful. Also under help, the same check for updates and update branch capability that we've got in VBD5. We've also added an ask for help capability, which is AI based. Everything's AI these days, but it actually this actually works quite well. And I'd encourage you to try this before raising a support ticket. Now, the reason why this is different is we've actually connected it up to the source code for VBD6. So the AI actually understands what you're talking about. So when you ask a question, it knows, it can go and look at the source code and see how VBD6 actually works and then respond in a sensible way. How do I mute channel 1? It is a bit slower than a normal chatbot, and that's because it's actually got to go through and look at the source code to understand your question and understand what the correct response is. But this should be a lot more useful than the pretty useless web-based AI chatbots that people have. If you're still stuck, you can click on Still No Good, raise a support ticket, fill in your name, details of the issue. And when you submit the ticket, it'll actually capture all the log files for this session and your settings that you've got and send those to us so we can quickly figure out what your problem is. We've got the same remote support, so if you do get stuck, we can remote into your system when you turn that on. Some information there on the command line arguments, and that's just about it. You'll see that I'm running the enterprise version that supports up to 128 channels. VBD6 Pro, which you can bring in your Pro license from VBD5, supports up to 64 channels. So if you need 128, you'll need to upgrade to enterprise. But there's not many people doing that, so we just added that because we've had a couple of parliaments and very, very large meeting spaces with hundreds of positions that wanted to use it. So, yeah, that's VBD6. We hope you enjoy it. It'll be coming out in the next very short while. We haven't got an exact release date yet, but there's still a few little issues and bugs to iron out. So once those are all done, you'll get an email from us to say VBD6 is available to download. Give it a try. Let us know how you go, and we look forward to seeing some of the cool things people do with this virtual video director 6. See you next time. Bye.